Well, today we are going to get out the Cricut and some cardstock and make a end table for the dolls with a nautical theme. Stay tuned and see how fun and easy this project is. Alright, so today's project only has 3 pieces, but we have 6 of each piece. So we have the tabletop, which is the larger circle, the table base, which is the smaller one, and then the upright part of the table, the stem of it, whatever you call that, the leg, is this anchor shaped piece. So let's start putting these together, and as I'm putting them together, I will talk to you about where to get the pattern and some of the rules and what we're doing. So we're making this little table. I saw the table, I was looking for inspiration, and I saw a table that I thought was really, really cute. And this is based kind of on a couple of different ones that I then found when I started doing a search for an anchor table. I thought this was really cute. So to get the pattern is completely free for you to download and use. The link for the download is in the blog post that goes with this video, and the blog post is linked in the description box for this video. It'll be in the first paragraph or two. You are welcome to use the pattern as many times as you want. You can make these tables for yourself. You can make the tables to sell, whatever you want to do with the finished table. All I ask is that you don't give away or sell my pattern, because it takes me some time to work out the details of the pattern, and I go through several sheets of paper sometimes to get this sized exactly the way I want it and to work out the bugs in it so that you guys can have a smooth, a finished table that looks really nice and is going to work. So just follow my rules so I can keep doing these for you guys for free. The only compensation I get is the little tiny bit that I get when you guys watch the video or click on the blog post. So I've cut these out of a medium weight white cardstock. I do that because it's, number one, I only have to have white then. Most of my patterns, if you've seen my patterns, for the most part, I cut them out of white cardstock and then I paint them. That way the paint holds everything, helps to hold everything together. It helps disguise that this is made out of cardstock and not out of something more substantial like wood. And I only have to have one color of paper on hand. Also, paint tends to be a lot more light fast than colored cardstock. Colored cardstock fades really quickly. So that's that stuff. Now the pattern, you'll find there should be 3 pieces to the pattern. You will have a PNG file to use with your electronic cutting machine, which is how I've cut mine. I cut mine with my Cricut. There'll be a text file that includes a few tips and tricks, although Cricut recently in one of their updates changed the update process, and I have to kind of figure out some new tips and tricks to fit with the new way of doing things. But one of the important things there is I tell you what size to size the PNG on your cutting mat so that you get the table that's the right size, because at least on my Cricut it always comes up the wrong size. You'll also find a PDF on there for those of you that don't want to or don't have an electronic cutting machine, so that you can cut yours by hand. And that also gives you some basic instructions as well as a link back to this video. So that's the rules and everything. I am going to make a stack of the small ones. I've already done the big ones, and then I'm going to line up and stack these 6 pieces of anchor. I'm going to put a piece, I'll probably put wax paper on first, and then my little ruler, and then something kind of heavy for this to start drying so that it dries nice and flat. Once this is dry, we'll come back and we will start painting. So I'll see you when this dries. All right, my glue has dried overnight, and then off camera, I started this, but I'm going to finish it up now. I have a sanding block that's kind of rough, and I'm just kind of hitting the edge just to make sure I don't have any glue residue and it's kind of smooth. And then I've got it at a slight angle, and I'm holding it and just trying to round off that edge a little bit. That will allow me to get everything the way I want it. It'll look more like wood. Now these are, be sure you measure yours. It should measure an inch, and I am going to make a very light line at the center at a 1/2 inch. Now the big one, something very similar. Get that edge done and then turn it over. And this one should measure an 1.5 inches, and it does. If your Cricut did its job, or your printer, depending on if you hand cut or you cut it with your electronic cutter, it should be the right measurement. Now this is the bottom side, and that's off a little bit, so what did I do? Oh, I did not have that, whoops. 3/4 of an inch. There we go. I was off just a little bit. There. So that will help me with that. I am going to round the edges on my anchor off just a little bit off camera, and then I'll be back. We're going to use some wood strips and we're going to start gluing. All right, so I have cut, this is just a piece of 1/8 inch by 1/8 inch strip wood. Oops, that doesn't belong there. 1/8 inch by 1/8 inch strip wood, and I cut little, about 1/2 inch pieces of it. Because what we are going to do, we're going to put that on each side of this to kind of help make it stand up. So I have my glue here and my toothpick. I debated whether I wanted to glue this and then paint, or paint and then glue, and I decided it will be easier if I paint it after I have it all assembled. So a little bit of glue, and we're going to put this piece in there. Do our best to center it. Hopefully I'm getting that in the middle. Then I'm going to take a pair of tweezers. Come on, sit up. And this will just allow it to, this little piece of wood will allow it to stand up. And you'll have an easier time because you'll be able to put your face over your piece so you can actually see what you're doing. I'm giving you the idea, and then I'm going to turn the camera off, and I'm going to make sure this is centered exactly where I want it. And once it is put exactly where I want it, I'm going to add a couple of drops of super glue, one on each side, to help that hold in place until the glue dries. So I am going to get this put exactly how I want it so everything's straight, and then let it dry, and then I'll be back. I'll take some pictures, so there'll be pictures on the blog. All right, now this has dried enough that I'm not concerned about it coming apart. I have my glue here, and I've got way too much junk on my table. I am going to stick my little piece of wood into the glue and then onto here. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And do your best to kind of line them up so that they are even with each other. And so they line up with the bottom. And then hopefully my glue is thick enough that that won't slide around. So there. And I don't think I'll have, if you need to, you can put something next to this to help it to stand up. But because you've got the little wooden pieces there, it should stand. And I would love to be able to tip this over to show it to you, but I can't because it will come apart. So I will show you when it's dry. I am going to take a little bit of super glue and just put just a little drop right in there and right in there to kind of hold this. And I'm going to hold on to this for a few minutes. When it gets set, then I will let it sit until the glue dries, and then I'll be back and we can start painting. So I'll see you then. All right, my glue is pretty dry and I need to get going on this. So I am going to attach it to this craft stick with just a little bit of that blue poster tack stuff. Now my glue, well, my glue is still a little bit wet, which is why I've put my paint out here on this lid. I am using Anita's Slate Blue, and this is just our undercoat paint. We're going to sand back down to this in areas. Because our table is going to be white when it's done, but I want a little bit of blue just kind of sneaking through the paint a little bit. So I am going to paint this. Come on, stay on there. And when this paint is dry, I will come back and we will put our next coat of paint on. So I'll see you when this dries. All right, the slate blue paint is dry. Now I just have some white craft paint out here, and I'm going to coat pretty much the whole thing. If I miss some spots, that's okay. If some of the blue shows through, I'm perfectly fine with that, because that will save me a step when I go to do the aging. So I'm going to go through here. I'm going to paint the whole table again. And I've got a really stiff brush, which makes it a little easier to actually miss spots. Because my idea is this is supposed to look like it was maybe blue in the past and it's been painted white and it's worn off. So there'll be some spots showing throughout the table. So I am going to get this painted with a not great coat of paint. And then when that dries, I'll come back and we'll do some aging to it. So I'll be back then. All right, once the paint is dry, and my paint is maybe not completely dry because I'm trying to rush to get this done. But once your paint is pretty dry, you can sand any areas that you feel have too heavy of a top coat. Now you could make this look like a brand new table. You could paint this with, in fact, I think painted with a dark, maybe a black or something, and then some gold highlights would look really elegant, or a navy blue. I wanted something that looked aged, that looked old and beat up, because you guys know I love that look. So I am going to tell myself I have to stop now. I'm going to put this back on my craft stick. And I have some satin Mod Podge that I should have opened earlier, and I didn't. Because I'm going to pour just a little bit out. If you've followed me for any length of time, you know that I almost always pour my Mod Podge and my paints out onto a palette to use them rather than straight out of the bottle. Because I'd rather waste a little bit of product than accidentally get something into the big jar and waste the whole thing. Because that's happened to me before. Whoops. So I am just going to coat this with a nice thin, even coat of satin Mod Podge, and then I'm going to let that dry. When that is dry, I will come back and we will look at our table and see how it looks. So I'll see you when this Mod Podge dries. All right, my Mod Podge is mostly dry. There's still a few damp spots, but I love how this table turned out. I think this is going to be a fun one to put. I'll probably put it on the front porch of the dollhouse, but it would be fun inside too. So I hope you enjoyed today's project. If you did, be sure and hit the like button. Leave me a comment. What kinds of things would you like to see in future videos? If you enjoyed my content and haven't subscribed, be sure and hit that subscription button and the notification bell so you know when I put up a new video. Be sure and check the blog post for photos and the link to the free downloadable pattern for the project. Thank you so very much for watching today, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.